starting the year off right, straight from our mom's basements.
That's right.
It's your favorite boys, the Below Average Joes, here for the third year.
Oh,
We ain't
wow.
going anywhere.
Technically is our third year. Wow.
Ain't going anywhere, Dominic.
No.
The man who's sat to my right, no, not all the time, but the man to my right for 169 episodes now.
That's right.
Dominic, how are you feeling now that we're bringing in the new year?
Ladies and gentlemen, obviously, Happy New Year from the Below Average Joe's MMA podcast. And I'm doing good, man. It's 2022. We kind of already have discussed all of this momentum and hype that we are bringing in to the new year. We're already working on things for 2022, and it's only January 5th when you're listening to this. So it's going to be a great year for the show, a great year for both of us personally, a lot of big things going on behind the scenes. But I'm ecstatic to be right here in the studio with you to discuss our biggest questions for 2022 for MMA. Woo! It's going to be fun, Noah. But first and foremost, how are you feeling, my friend?
I'm feeling good. I'm about to be heading to my new location.
Yes.
The mom's basement is not permanent for at least one of us. Sorry, Dom.
Come on.
But I'll be heading to the great state of Indiana.
That's right.
Probably the day after you guys will hopefully be listening or watching this. Start my new life.
Start his new life, the new chapter, huh?
Yeah, but everything's good. You know, Dominic, it's with the new year, it feels like it's like a time to refresh, to really restart, to I don't know, kind of cleanse yourself of the sins of 2021, you know?
Yeah.
So, Dominic, what's very popular, I don't know if you ever heard of this.
Oh, boy.
Is for people to establish a New Year's resolution.
Okay.
My sister, for example, this is a New Year's resolution. She's been going to the gym for the last few months. And she was complaining today about how many people were at the gym compared to the last few months. Yep. And I'm like, Macy, don't worry. By the end of the week, it'll thin out.
Yeah, go back to normal.
So, Dominic, I know you probably don't have a New Year's resolution, even though you do seem like the kind of guy that would. Kind of a weirdo in that way. But anyways, but I'm going to put you on the spot and say right now, what is your New Year's resolution for 2022? And it can't be about this podcast because that would be cheating.
It can't be about the podcast. All right, Noah, here you go. Because this actually is on my list of goals for 2022. The first bullet point, as a matter of fact, Noah, I have 3 classes remaining for my graduate program before I'm done with schooling for the rest of my life, which is kind of crazy. So, Noah, the goal is simply this: to get an A in all 3 of the final courses, finish out my master's degree strong.
I'm hoping I remember what we discuss here, so that way at the end of next year we can be like, did it happen?
And I'm like, I actually had to retake all 3 of them. What about you, man?
New Year's resolution. What is my goal for 2022? Well, my goal is, you know what? I want to make this easy for me.
Okay.
My goal is, so I'm a bit of a stickler when it comes to spending money. I'll be honest. I'm a bit of a penny pincher. A lot of it's just I'm so used to kind of always having to kind of scrap to get by a little bit, especially when I was in college, that now that I tend to have a little bit more money, at least enough to, you know, splurge a little bit of every now and then, I tend to not do it because I get like, I don't know, it's hard for me to shake that mentality.
Good for you.
My goal this year is to make 3 purchases of over $300.
Okay. Big spender here, huh? So, shout out to Anchor. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so I'm putting that out there. And for some people that are like, really, that's it. But I mean, like,
it's new territory, right? Like, it's exciting.
You know, this isn't including my monthly rent
yeah,
or some shit like that. I mean, like 3 purchases,
like adult purchases
that are wants, not needs. Wants. PlayStation 5. I'm looking at you, motherfucker. I'm coming for your ass. But also, you know, we have a UFC event coming up in March.
Baby.
I'd love to spend a pretty penny on that. Buddy of mine's having a bachelor party in Gatlinburg. We're renting a cabin out there.
There you
So,
go.
there's some brewing stuff this year. It's going to make me have to spend a little bit of money, but you know what? I'm going to have a good time doing it. So
there you go.
make that one easy for myself. But as Dominic said at the top, today's episode is a bit of an interesting one, a bit unique, a bit different, but don't get scared. Don't get scared. You can, you're right here. You're under my arm. You're under my wing.
It's a safe space. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Our burning question for every division in 2022 is what we're going to discuss here today. We're just going to go division by division.
Mm-hmm.
Most of these will be UFC related, of course, but I believe there's one or two, depending on how you count women's featherweight. Just throw that one out there.
Yeah.
But there is like one from another promotion, but outside that, it's going to be mostly UFC centered. You know how you guys get how this stuff goes.
Yeah.
But we're just going to go back and forth, give our biggest question for that division in 2022, and just have a little discussion about maybe how we foresee it going. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Just something a little different, something we don't tend to focus on too much here.
Yeah.
But something we spend a lot of time talking about in our own personal lives. So
right.
Dominic, I think we spent a lot of time setting that up. I say we just get right into it.
Let's do it, my friend. We got a lot of questions to go over here.
Yep. And we start with the women's strawweight division. We're going to go women's divisions first, and it starts with the lightest. Women's strawweight, Dominic, what is your biggest question in 2022 for this division?
Well, it's the question that has dawned on this podcast since the beginning of time, Noah, and it is simply, what weighs more, a straw or a fly? No, I'm just kidding. Just a little.
You say that, and you're like, oh, just kidding. You act like people know.
But I want to know.
but people, you gotta show people the Carfax. Like, go to episode, what is it, 5?
Oh gosh,
I think it's episode 5. One. Right there in the first 10 minutes, boom, you found it. Congratulations. X marks the spot.
Dig deep into the archives.
Dominic likes to believe that you guys are like privy to all this stuff. But come on, Dominic.
We've had a lot of new people coming.
We got a lot of new people coming in. You got to let them know.
Yes, of course. That is a burning question that has been a really prominent piece of this podcast.
3 years in the making.
Yes. But for real, my question is, in regards to highly regarded talents in this women's strawweight division, but two that we have not seen in a very long time, Noah. And it's simply this: will we see the return of former strawweight champion Joanna Jedrzejczyk and or Miss Tatianna Suarez, the undefeated female Habib, as they title her? That is my biggest question for the 115-pound division. It's a great division. It's a stacked division with many great talents up the top. But these are the two that are not there right now.
Now let's take this one step at a time. Which is more likely to happen? That's the one that, and I'm going to go with Tatianna Suarez.
Yeah,
I think there is a greater chance that we'll see Tatianna Suarez in 2022 than Joanna champion. My biggest reason for thinking that is we've already went 2 years plus at this point without Tatianna. Mm-hmm. She still seems to be very motivated and working towards a return. I believe she's even, I might be wrong, Dominic, was she not booked a couple times in the last year and a half, and it's just had to fall out?
She had the flyweight debut actually scheduled with Roxanne, then gets injured again, man. That's the problem.
Now, that's the thing, though. This is for women's strawweight, but I actually think that she would come back at women's flyweight and look to make a push for potentially dethroning Valentina there.
Yeah.
But, well, I'll let you address, like, do you feel like that's more likely in your heart right now that she would come back before we'd see Joanna come out?
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. And it is just a matter of, can she just stay healthy? Because when she's healthy, she's one of the best in the world in these female weight classes. For Joanna, it's not necessarily the injuries or anything. She's just taking time away. I mean, she's enjoying life in Poland. She's still training very much, but she's made it very clear that she's only interested in the big fights. And, she's already fought Rose twice, the current champion. She's lost to her both times. Then, so that leaves kind of the only other big fight, quote unquote, in this division is that rematch with Zhang Weili, their 2020 fight of the year. So is that enough to get her out of bed in the morning? Will it bring her back into the UFC? Only time will tell. But if I did have to answer that right now, I will go Tatianna as well, just because I feel like that knee injury she suffered, she's getting closer and closer by the day to making that big return.
You're right. The rematch with Zhang Weili is the biggest matchup out there for her. It's probably the only one that would qualify for a big fight in terms of what she's looking for.
Yeah.
But the other fight that was kind of thrown around was her and Marina Rodriguez. But Marina just got booked with Yan Xiaonan.
Yes.
So really, there's only one fight there for Joanna. If I had to guess right now, I will say both will actually happen in 2022. I'm feeling. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good about it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm of the belief that Joanna is like a retired fighter,
right?
I could really see her coming out, and I believe it will be the rematch with Zhang Weili. If I had to guess, I think the UFC understand how amazing that first fight is. It's the best women's fight of all time.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best fights ever.
Yep.
I think that they would look to really, try to capitalize on the momentum of that first fight and put those two together. Zhang Weili nearly took the belt right back from Rose in their rematch. And, I think that that's a big fight for a lot of reasons. But if Joanna were to lose the rematch, I kind of think she's done again.
Yeah.
I basically think she's got one run left. And
right.
whenever she loses, that's kind of where it's going to stop.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, for me, my biggest question for this division is actually going to involve our champion, Rose Namajunas. Now, Rose had a great 2021.
Mm-hmm.
She wins the belt in a chaotic highlight reel fashion, the head kick to Zhang Weili. She followed that up with a 5-round, I don't know if war is the right word, but a 5-round decision victory that was very close. So room for error being very minute,
high level
in that fight. Yeah, very high level MMA. She retains. Was it split? I believe it was split decision.
Yeah.
So now she's kind of looking ahead, right? She, I guess she proved it wasn't a fluke with Weili. My biggest question is, can Rose put together a title reign? And this year is going to really answer that. This is her second title reign, her second, time holding the belt. And as many of you may or may not remember, the first time she took the belt from Joanna, followed it up with an immediate rematch, a 5-round decision victory, and then gets put up with Jessica Andrade in Brazil, dominates the fight early, but ultimately gets slammed and gets knocked out. And she's had to climb her way back, and she did so. But now that she's once again beat a champion, had to do that again, and did it in 5 rounds. Now she's staring at probably a Carla Esparza fight, which is a fight she lost the first time, the finals of the Ultimate Fighter back in the day. So my biggest question is, can she, the legacy is really building for her.
Yes.
2 title reigns, some of these moments, one of the biggest underdog victories of all time against Joanna. And then you got the highlight reel KO of Zhang Weili. She's been in some wars. The Jessica Andrade second fight is awesome.
So good. Yeah.
Basically, now she just needs to. How far can a reign really go with her?
Yeah, she truthfully is one of the best female talents we've ever seen in the UFC, and she's still so young, 28, 29 years old, if I'm not mistaken, right there in her prime. And I do feel like she has the potential. She has the skill set, the athleticism to be a long-standing champion, one of the best champions in the UFC's female division histories. And for her, it's always been that mental side, right? We saw that with her first title reign. She wasn't really comfortable being the champion and all of the added stress and pressure. But now I feel like she's flipped that switch. She seems comfortable in her own skin, being under the bright lights, having that pressure on her, and she's delivering time in and time out when that pressure is on. I think it's a great fight between her and Carla. A great rematch, as Noah said, but 2 totally different fighters right now. Rose is just really in her prime, and I know Carla's having that career resurgence. We've talked about it time and time again, but if she does get past Carla, the way that this division looks and like other potential matchups, she is so well-rounded. I do think that we could see a very big year from Rose Namajunas in an extended, prolonged title reign.
Yeah, I favor her against Carla Esparza, even though Carla's got the win over her, but I don't know. I just look at what Rose and Carla have done since that first fight, and while it's really just it's kind of crazy that Carla's even made her way back to a title fight. I mean, she had to really kind of work for it. Had some tough skids here and there. Her path was not an easy one to get back to this position. I agree. Rose is an extraordinary talent. When you weigh up kind of the legacy, though, Dominic, right now it seems like Rose, with maybe her last title win, her last title defense, has probably put herself above, the names like, in terms of if you're going GOAT status, she's probably put herself firmly above people like Holly Holm and Misha Tate.
Yeah.
Jermaine Durand to me.
Yes.
Chris Cyborg in the UFC.
Yes.
But it still feels like she's below the Amanda Nunes, the Valentina Shevchenkos, the Ronda Rouseys, and even
Joanna.
the person she beat twice, Joanna, I would say. So I think a long title run, whether it be 2, 3, 4 defenses, could really do a lot in terms of her, I guess, legacy in terms of GOAT rankings.
100% agree with you on that.
And now we're going to transition into the women's flyweight division.
I'm all giddy about this
Dominic, I'm going to take this one first. I know Dominic's very excited. Dominic's quite the champion for the women's flyweight division. He's really been carrying the baton.
It's just those 125ers regardless, my man. That's our weight class.
It's true. So my question is not focused on any one person individually, but I guess if it is, it's kind of focused on our champion, Valentina. But really, my question is, in this year, can anyone become a threat? Put it simply.
Can anyone become a threat?
And here's what I mean. There are, and Dominic's going to touch on this, so I'm not going to throw out a ton of names here, but there are, it seems this division is really doing a great job of building up some young studs, some great talent. But even the best of that talent, and again, I'm not going to give any names because I want you to kind of have that, but you guys know who I'm talking about. A lot of the names that popped up last year or over the last couple of years been making big statements. None of them, and I know they're still young, still have ways to grow, but none of them right now tell me none of these women feel like a Khamzat or someone who I'm already kind of like, all right, we just got to get them up there. They're ready for the champion, and maybe in time, maybe this year they'll put together a couple wins and make me think otherwise. But I'm just struggling to see anybody who can threaten the champ. And you can argue Taylor Santos might be kind of the one. But I've been wrong about this. Juliana Pena just beat Amanda Nunes, and I've said on this show that there was no chance of that happening, Dominic. But I can't help it but kind of do it again, where I'm like, Taylor Santos is awesome. I think she's looked great. Do I favor her against Valentina Shevchenko? I do not. And is she a threat on the level of even how I felt Jessica Andrade was? I don't know. That's the question. And for me right now, I don't really see it. And that's kind of my question I want to answer in 2022 is who's going to make a name for himself, really step up and say, I am a threat to Valentina Shevchenko?
Yeah, that's a great question. And really, there is only that one name right now, and it is Taylor Santos. We've discussed her and how her performance against Joanne Wood was just phenomenal. Put her at number 5 in the rankings, and being that everyone else in front of her has lost to Valentina already, it seems she is that number 1 contender, and I'm looking forward to hopefully a fight announcement soon between those two. Is she a legitimate threat? I mean, man, Valentina is so good. She's truly one of the most special talents, no matter the weight class, no matter male or female, that we've ever seen in the UFC. She's so dominant at this 125-pound division. I would like to think, and I'm a big Taylor Santos fan, that she could put up a fight. But like Noah said, when Jessica Andrade goes in there and just gets mauled and dominated with her style of fight, mind you, Valentina utilized Andrade's game plan, which was mind-blowing to me. It really does make you doubt Taylor Santos. So I'm not going to say that there is a legitimate threat to the throne. However, the next title challenger, or at least who I hope it is, in Santos, put up a fight.
I'll
That's
be
at least what I'm
excited for the
hoping.
fight.
Yes,
I'll be excited for it,
100%.
which maybe that's enough. Maybe that's enough because I wasn't all that excited for Nunes against Juliana Pena.
Yeah.
I mean, I was excited for it in the way I was when she fought Megan Anderson or whoever.
Yeah.
I looked at it like, okay, the GOAT is back. Let's see how quickly she disposes of this one.
Right.
And obviously, me just saying it out loud is like, you idiot. You didn't see this coming.
Yeah.
Like the moment you say that is when they lose.
Right.
But I'm just I am excited for a potential Shevchenko Santos fight. But yeah, we'll see if she can really make a statement. But Dominic, I'm going to let you go ahead with your question because I think that's the more interesting one here to talk about.
And I mean, in a sense, it does relate to Noah's question, but it's a little bit more of a end of year. Like we got to let this year play out. So it's a bit long winded. Bear with me here because I'm going to kind of name off some things, some circumstances. But of the following prospects, which of these will have the best year or potentially have the best year en route to becoming a title contender by the end of 2022 going into 2023? And I love this. No, I've got 8 names listed here, 8 elite level prospects. And it really just clicked. I talked about it before in an episode where I was going nuts about this weight class, but then putting it down on paper with the records and stuff is crazy. So obviously Casey O'Neill, right? One of our runner-up for newcomer of the year at the Joeys last week. We've got Manon Fiore or Manon.
It's Manon
Fiore. Thank you. Manon Fiore. I butchered it on the Joeys. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's a hard one.
Yeah. Aaron Blanchfield, Melissa Gatto, Miranda Maverick, Macy Barber, Maria Agapova, and Tracy Cortez. These are all elite level prospect talents. And they've only been in the debutant of these 8 was Macy Barber, and that was November of 2018. So we're talking just now 3 years for this entire class, and a lot came in last year. They have a combined record of 21-5. 5 of those 8 fighters are undefeated in the UFC. My question is, because they're all so good and they all have such a high ceiling and they're really showing a lot of talent, that these are that next wave, right, of female mixed martial arts that are coming up right now. They're literally our age, which is crazy to think about. But, it's just which of these prospects, Noah, do you think could have the biggest year and by January 2023, this time next year, may just be the next title contender for Valentina or whomever the champion may be?
So you're kind of saying like which of these is going to be the closest maybe to being a title challenger by the end of the year? To me, that's got to be Manon Fiore. And I'm not even going to say I think she has the highest ceiling.
Yeah.
I actually think if I had to go by highest ceiling, I actually think Aaron Blanchfield might be the one with the highest ceiling.
Yeah.
She has an interesting style that could really give some problems in terms of her strength against Valentina. I'd be interested to see how that matchup would go because you look at how Blanchfield kind of disposed of Miranda Maverick so easily, just out muscling her, just being so much stronger in the cage and her grappling. Valentina has not been out muscled too much, but you saw Jennifer Maia able to control her on the ground for a whole round and kind of makes you wonder maybe. But I'm going with Manon Fiore in terms of who will be closest to challenging for the title. And my biggest reason, and we don't know what these matchups are going to hold in the future, but I think for Fiore, her style of fighting is the most exciting out of the bunch. She reminds me a lot of Valentina in terms of her stand-up. It's very there's nothing delicate about it. It is hard-hitting. It is brutal. It is precise. And it's very fun to watch. And you don't see a lot of that in the women's divisions. I mean, truthfully, Dom, even the women that are very good strikers, a lot of times it's the, punches and bunches. It's the output. You don't see a lot of that, like that power that feels like, oh, that could knock out some men with punches like that. But Manon Fiore, I think, has that. And I think if she were this year to put on, 1 or 2 finishes to kind of add to her record and do so, maybe one of those especially could maybe be like a highlight reel. She could really be jumping up towards the top of the ranks by the end of the year, I think.
Yeah, that's a great one, man. And really, where can you go wrong because of just the ceilings of all these women? But I will go with my personal newcomer of the year last year, Casey O'Neill. She is literally 23 years old. Her grappling is very good, especially in this weight class where you don't see many great grapplers for the most part. But she's shown this willingness to continue to evolve her striking because I think she realizes that's where she's going to need to pick it up the most when you look at a champion as good on the feet as Valentina. But I do think with a great camp behind her with Extreme Couture and all those guys there, she does have a lot of potential this upcoming year. I mean, she's starting the year out against Roxanne Modafferi in February, so that's a big test right there. Can you beat literally the OG of women's MMA? She has like 50 professional fights, just crazy. So, because that's a test that someone on this list and Macy Barber did not pass. Obviously there was the knee injury, but she was already losing that fight before that happened.
Mm-hmm.
So if Casey O'Neill can secure that win, launch herself into the top 10, especially with a finish, which is very hard to do against Roxanne, she's going to be very close by the end of the year, if not already challenging for a title. So I'm going to go Casey O'Neill, but man, this division right now, this back half, a lot of these women aren't even ranked yet. It excites me for the future of this division when Valentina is potentially just gone and no longer fighting.
Well said. Well said. What is your question for the women's bantamweight division, Dominic?
So this one actually kind of relates to flyweight, but with no specific names, and it's simply this, Noah. Will there be, and this is like very hypothetical because there's no names for me to mention or no, I don't know, but will there be any fresh blood or bright prospects, much like flyweight, that will debut in this weight class in 2022 and honestly just add some life to it? Because this is and it's unquestionable, the most stale women's division. Featherweight doesn't count because it technically doesn't have a ranking system, so there's no division. So it's the most stale division. It's the most stagnant division up at the top. It's the division with the most. They've just been there forever. It feels like it's the same top 15 rankings. Maybe they just have a different number next to their name. Miesha Tate, for what it's worth, did add a bit of excitement, a bit of fresh life when she came back in last year. But then we saw what happened in her fight with Ketlin Vieira. That was a very tough loss for her and what the future could have meant for her. So it kind of really put a halt on it and any sort of parity we could get in this division, if you're asking me. Then you have someone like Aspen Ladd who goes up a weight class after missing weight, loses there. She's still just sitting in the middle of the bantamweight rankings. So Noah, this division needs some fresh life, some fresh prospects. Are we going to get to see it this year?
Well, that is an interesting question because you're right. It has been a stagnant and stale division, but did it feel like it got put a little bit of life in it with Juliana Pena shocking the world? Because I don't know. My takeaway didn't feel reinvigorated by that fight.
No, not for the division as a whole.
No, because you guys know I've been trying to hold my tongue and not be, I'm not trying to be like rude or a dick in my assessment of that fight, but I look at it and I just go, what the hell is going on here? Why is Amanda fighting so poorly? I don't look at that fight and go, wow, look how great Juliana Pena is doing.
Yeah.
So that's why, unlike, when Holly Holm knocked out Ronda Rousey, I think that put a lot of life into the division at the time. Miesha Tate with the come from behind submission win in the 5th round against Holly Holm. Amanda Nunes knocking out Miesha Tate, something that a lot of people didn't see coming. Amanda Nunes knocking out Ronda Rousey. 40 seconds. This did not stack up to that with Pena getting that win. So I do think, though, that if Amanda Nunes does not take back her belt, whether it be because she chooses not to fight again or because the rematch goes to Pena a second time and Nunes just, whether she chooses to walk away or I guess I just can't imagine. Guys, I'm struggling to even hypothetically speak of Amanda Nunes as if she is not a champion or retired. It's hard for me. But let's just say Amanda Nunes is not the champion. Okay.
Yes.
I do think there's a good chance for someone to really there's going to be a lot of movement in this division. There's going to have to be. If Amanda Nunes is gone, you have a lot of fresh matchups with the champion, Juliana Pena, one of which involves the champion of that women's flyweight division, Valentina Shevchenko. So I do think there's going to be a lot of people, unlike the last couple of years where it felt like everybody's just been kind of holding their spot in line and not actually doing anything. I think this year you're going to see a lot of people vying for the crown, looking to prove that they're worthy of a title fight with Pena or whoever it could be. So because of that, I do think there's a chance that a name will really, showcase through, really shine through, and be looked at as like, okay, this could be our next long-term champion down the road. Yeah. I don't have an inkling of who that could be right now because that's really where we're at with this division. Where I, like the list you gave for women's flyweight, there's probably a couple of those names I wouldn't necessarily like put on the same level with the rest of them. But it is telling that you can list that many, that are looked at as like valuable prospects, and in women's bantamweight, it's just nothing. Yeah. So I think there's a good chance if Amanda Nunes does not take back her spot on top. But if she does come back and win and remain on top, then you're looking at like, Kayla Harrison and I know that's not this division, but you're looking at Amanda Nunes is going to probably fight people like Kayla Harrison or Valentina Shevchenko a third time. And those people like Holly Holm and Jermaine Durandamy are just going to, Jermaine got taken out, but Holly Holm and Aspen Ladd and people like that are just going to sit there right below her.
Right. Yeah. It's a good point.
For me, my question is about Amanda Nunes, and it's basically just, can Amanda Nunes get her mojo back?
Fair play.
That fight with Juliana Pena is still, it haunts me.
I can tell.
Just because someone who I thought had looked incredible over her run, out of nowhere, was a very bad fighter.
Yeah.
That fight, if you go back and watch it, you can say whatever you want about Juliana Pena. If you want to give her a lot of credit, that's fine. But it cannot be overstated how poor of a performance that was from Amanda Nunes. Why? I don't know. Could it be that she's getting older, that her skills are starting to diminish? Could it be that she didn't train properly and her cardio wasn't up to snuff and everything just kind of fell flat? Was it, is her heart not really in it anymore because she's got the family and she's earned all this money and really, she's just kind of putting notches on her belt by taking these fights anyways? I don't know. I don't know why, but the woman who fought Juliana Pena at UFC 269 was nowhere near the GOAT of women's MMA, and someone who I had even started to really consider as the GOAT of MMA in general.
Yeah.
So, Dominic, there's a lot of options in front of Amanda Nunes, but the question that I have for this year is, will she be able to get her mojo back?
Well, you know how I felt in the immediate aftermath when she lost. I thought, you know what? That's it. She's done at bantamweight, right? She still has a belt at featherweight. She'll go have a fight or two up there. Maybe welcome Kayla Harrison. Big fight, money fight, off into the sunset she goes. But she's made it clear since then that she does want to have this rematch and she does want to win that belt back. So can she do it is the question, Noah. It's really hard to say no just because of her long-stained success and dominance of this division. And, truthfully, still, like, stylistically, yes, I know Juliana won the fight, but I still feel like that's a hard matchup for Juliana. It just on that night, she was able to get the win, man. So can she bounce back and win the belt? 100%. She definitely can. But you raise good points, with her heart being in it. Is she just going through the motions at this point because she's done it all? She's been there. She's seen it all. So if I had to just answer yes or no, will she have a bounce back year in 2022? I'm going to say no.
Yeah, because you're of the belief she's not going to fight again, aren't you?
Well, at bantamweight, but like I said, she has made it clear she wants to do it. But like, say she, in the meantime, does fight at featherweight before going back to bantamweight. Like, what if she does lose at featherweight? Then she's without a belt. then does she even want to come back at all? So right now, I'm going to say I don't know if we're going to see that bounce back year from Amanda, because we know like she's not going to get another fight at 135 unless it's the belt, obviously. So she kind of has no other choice. But do you want to try and win your belt back, defend your other belt, or be done? So I'm going to go no. It pains me to say that, but if she fights Juliana again, I mean, maybe she loses. I don't know. I don't know.
I tend to think yes, but also like, I don't know, because this could be a really weird year where maybe she wins back that bantamweight title, but then can she? I don't know. I don't have a ton of confidence in her against Kayla Harrison at this point. So could it be one of those years where she gains back the one belt, but then she loses the other one, and then we're still kind of asking the same questions at the end of the year?
Yeah,
I'm gonna say yes, and I think that what could really end up happening is if she were to win back her belt, and I don't know when that would be, but if she were to win it back, I do think before the end of the year we could see her take a very high-profile bout with Kayla Harrison or Valentina Shevchenko, and with the win or loss, I think that would probably be about it for her, if I had to guess right now. And I guess at that point, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I guess those are two of the top women in the whole world. So I say by that point, she had her mojo back by simply getting the belt back, I guess. I don't know.
So confidently, do you think you can say that regardless of what happens, is 2022 the final year of Amanda Nunes' career?
I would say we're definitely, I would say the over under like 45%. Yeah, I'd take the over on that.
Yeah, I agree.
I would say there's a pretty good chance that this is it for her.
Fair enough.
Women's featherweight, I think we'll just group ours together.
Yeah. There's only one question, really.
We essentially have the same question, and that is about Kayla Harrison, who is yet to sign with or be, I guess, officially recognized as a member of the UFC's roster. But before the holidays, we were told that they are talking, they are in negotiations, and all signs seem to point to that she will become a member of the UFC's roster. Now, this is a little interesting, Dominic, because we don't really have a division for her to come into.
Nope.
You got, like a couple names that are still hanging around that are true featherweights, and then a few bantamweights that can't seem to cut the extra pounds or whatever it may be. There's no rankings for this division. It's really been a tough road for women's featherweight.
Yeah, ever since the beginning.
And I even said after we did have a main event in 2021 in the division, Aspen Ladd did take on
Norma Dumont.
Norma Dumont. Norma Dumont wins, but the fans lose because they had to watch the fight.
Yeah.
So I said then, I thought that was it. That was the nail in the coffin. This division will no longer be with us in about a year's time. However, Dominic, the question now instead is, can Kayla Harrison, let me rephrase.
Okay.
Will the UFC build this division around Kayla Harrison?
You've got to think the answer is yes, and that is simply because why else would they show interest in her? What are you going to really go through all this, contract negotiations and whatnot with Ali and Kayla and her team just for potentially one fight? Really? Like, I know that's a huge fight, but even Dana came out and said, like, well, after Amanda lost to Juliana, that fight's not quite as big as it could have been, and yada yada yada. So
now he's saying Amanda versus Pena is like the biggest women's fight of all time.
Now he's saying that is the biggest fight of all time. You know how Dana be. But I have to say yes, because again, why else go through this? Why not just, go back to PFL, let Scott Coker sign you with Bellator? Like, I have to believe they're going to try and give it a second wind, a bit of a resurgence, if you will, if the big word being if Kayla Harrison does decide to sign there. Especially, I mean, if she comes in and beats Amanda, she's not going to fight at 135. She simply can't make it. She's too big. She's literally a women's lightweight. You're already asking a lot of her to cut the featherweight 1, 2, at the most 3 times a year for fights. So I do think that if Kayla comes in, they will attempt to build a division around her, especially if she beats her teammate Amanda Nunes. She's going to become one of the biggest stars in the sport. So
That's so true, and yet I'm still gonna say no.
yeah,
Like, and here's kind of where I'm thinking. I think you're right. Kayla Harrison will probably become one of the biggest stars in the sport if she's able to beat
yes,
Amanda Nunes or whatever. I think that there's a lot of routes for her to really, reach that status that we all know is there. But in terms of, do I think they're going to build a division around her? Do I think in a year and a half or in a year and a half's time, do I think we're going to have a top 15
yeah,
women's featherweight rankings? No, I don't. I think the UFC will maybe treat her a bit like if you were in the back in the like Roman gladiator days or whatever, back at the Colosseum.
yeah,
She's the lion, and you got the people that they bring out to fight the lion, and usually they just get mauled to death.
yeah.
That's what I think is going to really be happening. You're just going to kind of get these
One-offs.
Yeah, I do think Kayla Harrison has the potential to kind of be that popular, to be
Yeah,
that big, where you really don't. It doesn't matter who she's fighting. Almost a Ronda Rousey type, but I'm
yeah,
not gonna say. I'm not gonna really say she's Ronda Rousey level, but I just think that you know I don't see I don't see the UFC's interest in really building this division.
yeah.
But I agree that they should, because Kayla Harrison is worth it, and I think that they will recognize that she's worth it. But I just don't know if they feel there's enough talent in that division to make a whole division out of it.
Right. Yeah,
So I think you're just going to get a lot of one-offs, a lot of bantamweights moving up, maybe. I think, truthfully, I don't know if the UFC and Kayla Harrison are long-term partners. I don't.
I think it's kind of a short, sweet
I
deal.
wonder if this is like a Chris Cyborg, not necessarily going to end on bad terms, but a 2-year, 2.5-year
Let's see what we can
relationship.
do, and yeah.
Yeah. So, still think women's featherweight is eventually on its way out.
We'll see how much longer we can keep saying that.
I know. I literally said that on episode 5.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Let's go to now. We're in the men's divisions. We're starting with the 125ers, the men's flyweight division. Dominic, you have the floor.
No, I have a couple questions like this, and it's a simple question, nothing long-winded, maybe not even be that long of a discussion. But there's a guy that we're really high on, and we have been high on since he came into the UFC. Started 0-2, however, is his reign, but has since tallied off 2 phenomenal back-to-back knockout wins. Noah, will Manel Cape be a number 1 contender by the end of 2022?
I'll say yes.
We really believe in this guy's potential.
I have been, we both have been so high on Manel Cape since he got signed to the UFC. We know what the guy brings to the table. He was an extraordinary talent for Ryzen, and it's been a weird run so far. And really, even though you're right, he did have back-to-back first round highlight reel finishes, but really only one performance so far has been without any sort of controversy or anything. Because he missed weight for his first win. That's what I'm alluding to.
Yeah.
But his last fight against Zalgaz was great. And I think Zamagulov is much better than people probably are aware of, because he's a, bottom half of the top 15 flyweight, but he is very good. And I think that for Manel Cape to dispose of him the way he did shows that this guy's really starting to get it back a little bit, and that was the best performance we've seen of him in the octagon. And I mean, the win over Ode Osborne was very impressive too.
Flying knee.
Ode Osborne, a guy who's fought at bantamweight a few times in his career, a bit of a bigger guy, and Manel Cape being able to dispose of him in the first round. I'm going to say yes, but there is kind of the caveat that he's got to make weight. And that's just the biggest question mark, because he is a big guy. It's a tough weight class to make consistently. but he seems to want to stay active. And I do think that the division is in need of a guy like him, a guy that kind of carry a title fight. I feel like he can really think he would be one of those guys that could really, I don't know. I'm not saying he's like a star, but I think he could be a Davison type. He could be that kind of guy.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's in title talks for sure, if not lined up for a title fight at the end of 2022. I think it's going to be a very busy, active year. I mean, for God's sakes, he's already fought 4 times in the UFC already, and that's all since we started the podcast in August of 2020. So that's a pretty active fighter.
Wasn't all 4 of those in 2021?
I think they all came in 2021, which is even more crazy. I think he's going to have 2, 3, maybe even 4 fights this year. And again, it all, I'm saying this now, but maybe he matches up with a guy that I'm like, oh, okay, this is a really hard fight. But as of right now on paper, man, I think he does match up well with a lot of these flyweights. I think he has the skill set, the athleticism, still only 28 years old with all the experience that he has, can take him a long way. I think we're talking about Manel Kopp in a title contention status at the end of the year.
Yeah, for sure. For me, men's flyweight, I'm going to go with the list of contenders that we've kind of developed here. Basically, number 2 through number 6. A lot of names in there. A lot of guys who are kind of really trying to put that stamp on, like, I am the next challenger for Brandon Moreno or Davison. Yeah. Obviously, they're running their trilogy here in January. I don't think the winner really matters to this question. It really could be either one because it's a trilogy, and I think the loser's moving on from here. But the loser would be included in this discussion, of course. But I guess, guys like Moreno, Davison, I'll even put Cody Garbrandt because he technically is in this division now. They are guys that are they've kind of earned a status. They are above the rest. They're not just champion level or title challenger level. They have a bit more name value than what is the rest of this division, which is lacking a lot of that star power. That's usually the knocks on the flyweight division. So out of these names, Dominic, which contender takes that next step in 2022 and really makes a name for themselves, whether it be because you think that they're a title challenger, a future champion, or simply someone who's got a few highlight reel performances that could really become a star in a way? And the names are Askar Askarov, Alexandre Pantoja, Alex Perez, Brandon Royval,
love Raw Dog,
Kai Kara France.
Yeah, man. It is hard to kind of stray away from a guy like Kai Kara France right now after such a dominant.
He's got a lead. He's got a lead on the rest.
Yes, he does. But that matchup with Askar Askarov is a very, very hard fight for him, Noah.
I say, might be the worst matchup for him.
Yes.
In the entire division.
Yes, 100%.
Specifically.
And truthfully, Askar is a bad matchup for anyone in this division just because his grappling is just at another level. I mean, look what he did to Joseph Benavidez. Joseph Benavidez is a wrestler, ladies and gentlemen, and he dominated his way to a decision victory in that one. So, no, I'm going with Mr. Alexandre Pantoja. He's still sitting right there, man. I feel like, had this trilogy not come up, he was next in line for that fight with Moreno, a rematch in the making from back then. He's beaten Brandon Moreno, if I'm not mistaken, in their first fight. So, he's still sitting there right now. No fight booked. I don't know because I view Kara France and Askar as the number one contender fight. Like the title fight is in January. Askar and France are in March in Columbus that we're going to get to see. Knock on wood. We're going to get to see anyways in person. So you would think the winner of that kind of lines up with the winner of the title bout, but Pantoja is still sitting right there. So I'd love to see the guy get a chance, but maybe he wants to stay active as well. Maybe he takes a fight against, an Alex Perez because he just beat Royval, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, really, he's kind of sitting here just waiting in lingo.
He was scheduled to be in Davison's spot when this fight was.
Yes.
It was originally supposed to be Moreno and Pantoja
That's
on
true.
UFC 269, but Pantoja said that he needed more time.
Thus, they went to the trilogy. So, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I totally forgot that happened. So, for what that's worth, I mean, that tells you how they're viewing Pantoja. He's on that, I think, 3 fights in a row right now. He's looked so good in all of his performances, too. The one against Manel Cape, yes, was such a good fight. So I still think the dark horse man, even though he's not booked with anybody, Alejandro Pantoja, I think he can be a threat to the title and make a name for himself in 2022.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on him. I just I'm a bit worried for his sake, and this is purely off of vibes.
Mm-hmm.
So take with that what you will. But for Pantoja, I feel like there might be a little bit of regret in passing up that title opportunity. If he wasn't ready, I get it. I'm not saying he was wrong for passing it up, but I just worried that might have been his moment to really capitalize on his momentum and his skill set where it's at. And I just wonder if, his next fight is just not going to be the same guy. The momentum will be a little lessened. Maybe he'll start to decline a little bit. I don't know. I just, there's something that's holding me back from, Pantoja. I may have picked over Moreno in December, but now I don't know if I would pick Pantoja to really be at the top come, the end of 2022. The guy that I'm on the lookout for has got to be my boy, Raw Dog Royval.
I love him, man.
He's in an interesting spot. I believe he's 2-2 in the UFC at this point. All been exciting fights, but the Pantoja fight was a loss. It was a clear loss, but it was a close fight, a fight that he was very competitive in. But I'm a little annoyed with Kai Car-France getting all this love for title talks. But my man Brandon Royval took that boy to school.
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, they had a great fight. It was a great fight, and Royval got the win. But before that, he had that awesome performance against Tim Elliott. His other loss is to the champion Moreno, and that was a weird one where
dislocated his shoulder.
Moreno won round one, but it was like still a close fight. And Raw Dog's shoulder pops out of place, and the fight's just like over. So he's had a weird but also very intriguing and interesting run so far. I just think that he's had a little bit of bad luck. Injuries obviously, and I think this year could be a year for him to really put a string of wins together, and maybe him versus Perez is the next fight. I don't know, because Perez versus Matt Schnell just isn't going to happen. So
apparently not.
So I think Royval needs to find his way somewhere in the mix, and I do think that there's a good chance. I don't know if he'll be the guy. I don't think he'll necessarily be next for a title. I think you're right. I think the winner of Askarov France is going to be the next challenger. But I do think that in terms of kind of building that name, I think Brandon Royval, Raw Dog Royval, the nickname, the fight style, I think there's a good chance 2022 he could be making some waves.
It could be potentially a comeback fight of the year, at the Joeys in 2022.
Be on the lookout, moving on to Bantamweight. Now, this is where the one non-UFC entry comes in here, because my question, Dominic, is with our boy Scott Coker and them Bellator men and women who are all so talented in their own right. But my question in that Bantamweight division is all about that Bantamweight Grand Prix. Happening in the summer. They announced it at their last event. It looks very exciting. I mean, it's the Grand Prix that everybody was calling for. And now it's just like, all right, we got it. But the question, Dominic, is will the Grand Prix live up to the hype? Because you look at this light heavyweight Grand Prix, and dare I say, I know it hasn't finished off yet. We got a great championship. You got Corey Anderson going up against Vadim Nemkov. I think that's awesome. But dare I say, the rest of the tournament, a bit lackluster. Not on the fault of Bellator. How can you predict Yoel Romero and Anthony Johnson to both have to be removed? And just a lot of weirdness with that stuff. So basically, we're all excited about the Bantamweight Grand Prix, but will it live up to the hype? Will it go smoothly? And we have to consider, Dominic, when you answer this, I want you to think about 3 of these, these top 8. I think we've had 3 matchups already take place. So are we kind of getting this at, should this have been the tournament last year, when these guys were all right there. And I want you to kind of take all that and go whatever direction you want.
All things considered, I don't see how this can fail. I'm very excited. This could be one of the biggest Grand Prix that Bellator's ever done. They have a great light heavyweight division. We've talked about how good their division is. Noah mentioned kind of the hiccups in the Grand Prix last year. But the Bellator 135-pound men's division is the most stacked division in Bellator. They have the most talent. They have the most young prospects and just well-roundedness. All 8 of these guys are as well-rounded as they come. And yes, there are a few different rematches that could take place. Obviously, we don't know the first round of matchups just yet for the Grand Prix when it starts. But they're also, and what's fun about the rematches is that they're also evenly matched. It could easily sway the other way if they fight a second time. And for all of the, fresh matchups, they're so much fun, man. There's not one matchup here. You know how we used to do those things in school where you'd put together like the purple sprinkles with vanilla ice cream and a chocolate cone and all the different kind of matchups you can do.
I do.
That's how I feel with this Grand Prix here. You can't go wrong with these matchups. Obviously, Sergio Pettis is surging, no pun intended, right now as the champion. Had that amazing come from behind win against Horiguchi, but that win in itself shows you how crazy this Grand Prix could be because he was losing that fight so convincingly.
Couldn't that just be the best way that fight could end? Where it's like
Yes.
Sergio wins, but look at what Horiguchi did for 4 rounds. That really is going to add a lot of intrigue to that Grand Prix.
100% does, man. So I think it's going to deliver. I think it's going to well exceed what we saw at the light heavyweight Grand Prix last year. A lot of young talent, a lot of guys that could make names for themselves in Bellator and maybe further down the line in other promotions as well, including the UFC. I love, all these guys. There's guys that grappling, striking. Everybody in this division has their own special talent, but can compete with all the other talents of their counterparts. So yes, it's going to deliver. And dare I say, Noah, and this could come back to bite my ass, it may over exceed the expectations.
I like that. Really going out on a limb there, Dominic.
Yes, it's a thin one.
It's hard to predict because you can't account for who would have thought that the light heavyweight Grand Prix would have the troubles they did. Julius Anglicus coming out on last second to fight the champ. I mean, who would have thought that would happen? And I'm not going to sit here and predict that to happen with this Bantamweight Grand Prix. So I guess for this discussion, it is my biggest question. But for this discussion, by everything that's been taken into account, I think it has the makings to be a Grand Prix that, and there's been some predictions or rumors, and I think so far they're mostly rumors by just the MMA fan base of perhaps Bellator being on CBS next year. They are owned. They're on Showtime. They're owned by Viacom CBS. So crazier things have happened, and this could be the kind of Grand Prix, this kind of tournament could be the event to really push the card onto that kind of broadcast.
Yeah, that would be. Could you imagine? I mean, we just last year we saw the UFC make it to ABC, but imagine Bellator
one on TNT as
one on TNT. Yeah, very true. So now if Bellator can crack in on CBS, man, that'd be huge. I'm very excited. Bellator had a fantastic 2021, by the way, people. I'm so glad that we kind of changed our format the middle of this year because we got to discuss so many of their great bouts as well. So I'm very much looking forward to the year that they're going to have, including the Grand Prix.
Now let's get to your bantamweight question.
No, my question is about 2 young gentlemen who just entered the bantamweight rankings, 1 week apart from one another. And that is Mr. Sugar Show himself, Sean O'Malley, and War Ricky the Mullet, Ricky Simone. Noah, who is going to be closer to that oh-so-coveted title shot by the end of the year between these 2 gentlemen?
I'm going to have to go with the popular pick, Dominic. I know that you're a big fan of Ricky Simone, and I do think Ricky has a lot of potential. But in terms of who has the highest ceiling, man, I mean, Sean O'Malley, the way he disposed of Raleigh Paiva, I said if he could get that guy out of there quickly, he would have done a lot in my mind to kind of settle any sort of doubts I was having off the Cheeto Vera loss, and now it looks like the world is his oyster. I mean, I don't know what matchup is next. It's looking like, here's a prediction that Sean O'Malley will fight Cody Garbrandt next, and I know that the Cody Garbrandt fans, including us, will be very sad by the idea of what it could turn into. But I think if that's the route that the UFC goes, I mean, a win over Cody Garbrandt might be enough for Sean O'Malley to all of a sudden get a title shot.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that it's not crazy, Dominic, for Ricky Simone to be the workhorse this year and perhaps be a top 5, while Sean maybe fights once or twice, but he just,
the name carries him.
The name is going to carry him. I don't think I see Ricky Simone as a top 5 in this division. I think where he's at now is about where I would place him, and we'll see as he keeps getting better. But Sean O'Malley for me, that's my answer.
Well, Noah, my answer's kind of, it might piss you off. It probably won't piss you off. It may come down to these two squaring up in front of each other in the cage to determine who could be closer to the title, man, because they've had a history and a little bit of beef on Twitter. They had a fight that looked like it was going to happen, then it didn't happen because the weight couldn't be made and this and that. It was going to be at featherweight, all this drama. Right now, Ricky wants the fight. I don't know if that will happen for Sean. I think Sean versus Cody is looking promising for him.
I understand that people are going to look at those two fight options and go, oh, if Sean's a real man, he'll fight Ricky. And it's like, okay, guys, Cody Garbrandt,
he'll fight Cody, though.
Cody Garbrandt is still a fantastic fighter. Like, can we stop? Like, I get it. The guy, he's having a rough time. I get it. But that's not even the thing, though. Even if that is on paper, an easier matchup for Sean, or a more winnable matchup, there is a clear route to victory for Sean O'Malley against Cody Garbrandt, and it gets him closer to a title. Why would you not take that?
Yeah, I'm viewing these guys right now. They're back-to-back, neck and neck. Number 12 for Sean, number 13 for Ricky. I think these guys get 1 or 2 fights in during, this first half of the year, and by the fall, these two may just have to duke it out. Maybe at that time they're sitting around number 5, number 6, number 7, and the winner of that might just catapult into this super stacked. I mean, we know how stacked the top of this division is right now, so it's going to be hard for either one of them to get into the title talks. But big statements from either could do it. But no, I guess I will side with you just because of that name value. I think Sean has a better chance to be there. But in terms of like the actual skill set, and I know the striking's not up to par, but Ricky's all-around skills could potentially carry him just as far, but it may take a little longer.
Well, Dominic, the question then is, right now, who wins that fight?
Oh,
come on. I mean, that's what you said it came down to that. I know you picked Sean, but I don't think that's who you were picking in the fight.
If these two fought right now, man, I'll tell you what, Ricky showed me some good stuff on the feet, but Sean's a great striker. But Ricky's going to be the best grappler that Sean's ever faced. We saw it happen when he fought Cheeto with the kick. Ooh. I still might side with Sean if they were to match up. And maybe, just maybe, these two build a little rivalry and fight more than once in their careers.
I like that. Everybody wins at that point.
Right.
Featherweight. And I believe you're first.
Me?
This time. Yep, you're first.
Okay. Well, as we know,
I guess we both had kind of similar questions.
Yeah, it's relation to
the same two people are in
what
talk.
Should be the next title fight, right?
Yeah.
So my question is, I kind of worded it wrong, but it's too late now. I already typed it out. If Volkanovski versus Holloway 3 ends with Max Holloway getting the win, will we see the immediate 4th fight, the saga, and consequently, if that happens, hold up the title picture even longer?
Every time you say saga, I think of Star Wars. And
I know.
Like, man, we're really getting close to having more Volk Max fights than Star Wars movies.
Oh, man.
Okay, so sorry. You said if Max wins, will we see an immediate rematch for Volk, a fourth fight, or?
Well, and do we see that, and thus it will consequently hold up the title picture even longer?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to be I think this might be the one I'm the most, out of all your questions, this will probably be the one I'm the most, like, for sure, like, confident in. I'm going to say no, because I think there has to be an understanding. If you're even if you're the Volkanovski, you're a champion, you've won twice, it has to be understood that this third fight is happening not just because Max has put on back-to-back fantastic performances, one of which earned our performance of the year at the Joeys, the other one very close to
fight of the year nominee. Yeah.
But also because the second fight was razor thin.
Yeah.
Probably could have been a draw, really. I mean, there was no 10-8s, but I'm just saying it could have been a draw in the sense that, like, it didn't feel like any guy really won. It was like both guys they fought at the same level, put the same amount of damage into one another.
Yeah.
And because of that, this third fight is really to settle the score.
Mm-hmm.
So for Volkanovski, I'm sure that's not going to be what's going through his head, but this has to be it.
Yeah.
It has to be understood. This is it. I don't care if Max wins some super close split decision and the people think that Volkanovski won or whatever. Yeah. That's a nightmare scenario, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Because who knows? I might feel differently if that happens. But right now, you have guys that are vying for a title shot. Yes, Ortega's out of the picture, but guys like the Korean Zombie. You got Giga Chikadze, who's perhaps about to maybe put himself closer if he's fighting Calvin Kattar here in a couple weeks. There are guys, in this range that are wanting a title opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think people are getting a little tired of Max versus Volkanovski.
Yeah.
My fight of the year was Volkanovski Ortega. Maybe part of that was because I was just happy that it was someone else other than Max and Volk fighting each other.
Yeah.
No, but I am very adamantly going to say no, that will not happen no matter what, and that the division will not be held up.
You might have talked me into it. I might agree with you. Truthfully, too, like, if Max comes in, obviously you put out the worst case scenario, but if he comes out and starches Volk, then it's probably even more clear that, like, okay, we probably shouldn't do this fourth fight, right?
Don't get me wrong. If you're going by what's fair, I mean, Volk should.
Right, because he is 2-0. Yeah. But
you're not going to hear me give him that benefit of the doubt because I've already said I don't like immediate title rematches. And, I'm not one that's going to side with that level of thinking. But I understand if you do. And if Volkanovski does, which I'm sure he will, I get it. But he's just going to have to earn it back. He's just going to have to keep going.
Yeah. You did it, Noah. You talked me into it. I'm going to say, regardless of outcome, no saga, no fourth fight, no Star Wars this time around.
I guess it could end up being a fourth fight, but I just don't think it's like
not
immediate.
Yeah, not immediate. Yeah.
So my question is also involving these two, but it's a little different. And it's more so, Dominic, about the loser of this third fight. And we just kind of said we both now are on the same page. We don't think they run it back. But for the loser of Max versus Volkanovski 3, what do they do next?
Okay, well, let's start with maybe the easier one. If Max loses, lightweight? Question mark.
I feel like lightweight.
Yeah. And I'm talking like career move to lightweight, not another one off.
No,
I'm thinking he takes a little time off, puts on some size, lightweight fighter.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance if he were to lose, I don't know, April, May, I think we wouldn't see him again the rest of the year. I think he'd be doing the John Jones.
Yeah, or at the earliest, like the end of the year. Yeah. If Volk loses, that's an interesting question because we already ruled out the
some people have talked about him going to lightweight, and I just can't really see it. He has shown a lot to me. I know there was a time when we spoke pretty slanderous of Volkanovski, without trying.
Right.
Like, we respected him, but we didn't we thought we were respecting him, but we were disrespecting him because we weren't giving him the credit.
Yes.
We focused on his size, his stature, and that's still going to be kind of my problem though with him going to lightweight. Is like, can he really compete with like Charles Oliveira and Dustin Poirier and guys like? I don't see that.
They'd be.
I think Max has a hard enough time doing that.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, he ain't going to bantamweight because don't get it twisted, folks. He's short, but he's thick. THICC. We got 2 C's with it. He's a thick boy. I mean, what was he, 215 pounds when he played rugby? Now he's fighting at 145. So what does he do? You know, he's
Can
not
I
gonna
give
go
an
down.
interesting fight? Can I
Please.
throw out an interesting one?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say he loses to Max. Well, I think Volkanovski has earned himself. He has earned himself a big fight still. He is a good champion. He held the belt for a long time, and I think that he's earned a lot of respect and credit with the fans. I think he gets a 5-round feature bout with Henry Cejudo. How about that?
Noah, I like it, but does Henry want to come back if it's not for the gold? That's my
I understand that.
That's my only doubt.
Now,
that fight.
My thing with Henry Cejudo is Henry really going to want to come back and fight for the belt if it's Max Holloway that's holding it, because the stature difference, the size difference.
Yeah.
I think that I'm going to stick with it. I know it's not the most realistic because I get it. You know, Cejudo does seem very keen on that belt. But I'm going to stick with Volkanovski and Cejudo have, like, I don't know if it's 5-rounder, but the feature bout on a pay-per-view, that's going to be your big fight to try to earn some pay-per-views, you know.
All right, no, this is what I'm going to do. It just came to me, so I'm going to spit it out right here. If Volk is the one to lose, he's going to fight the Korean Zombie. And then if Giga Chikadze gets past Calvin Kattar here in a couple weeks, which we're going to preview. Can't wait for that. It's been a long time since we previewed a fight. He's going to fight Yair Rodriguez. That's what I'm going with. Random, because I know we weren't talking about him, but it just came to my head, so I needed to put it out there.
You had to tickle that matchmaking fancy.
Yeah.
Of yours.
Yeah, I couldn't wait 2 more weeks for it. So. And again, those are both what ifs, but that's what I think. Vulcan Korean Zombie would be. I think that's an interesting fight.
That is so interesting because Korean Zombie showed a lot of a different style in his last win over Ige. And I don't think enough people are really considering that maybe Korean Zombie is adapting a little bit with the times.
Yeah, he's still there, man. He's still there.
Let's move on to lightweight, which for how many years in a row has been probably the best division in all of MMA.
It's been a while.
So, I mean, this one has got to have some burning questions, right, Dominic? What's burning inside for us? And, well, I'm not going to address any of those names that you're familiar with. The question that legitimately has me the most interested in, what I'm most interested in seeing in 2022, involves a lot of newcomers to the top 15, Dominic. Specifically, there were five gentlemen who made their first appearance in the top 15 in 2021. The names are Rafael Fiziev, Brad Riddell, Matos Gamrot, Arman Saryukin, and Joel Alvarez.
Mm-hmm.
And the question becomes, as all these guys are still ranked under that number 10 spot, which of these top 15 newcomers will make the biggest jump in 2022?
No, I'm telling you right now, if this boy can get his weight under control, Joel Alvarez is a problem.
I'm surprised Joel Alvarez was your pick. I really am. I like it, though.
Joel Alvarez is a problem.
That guy that commented on one of our episodes about Joel Alvarez, he should be very excited that you said that.
I mean, yeah, you're right. 6'3", long, rangy, 19 wins, 2 losses. I believe all 19 wins, or if not 19, 18 out of 19 are via finish. Almost 90% of those are via submission, but he just got a KO in his last fight against Thiago Moises, mind you, which is a very tough out. If he can get the weight down and make it consistently without issue, Joel Alvarez is going to be a problem and approaching top 5 territory by the end of the year, Noah.
All right, Dom.
But real quick, he's going to have to get past one of the other 4 guys you mentioned. So
Yeah, you know what's wait, he's matched up with Saryukin,
Armin.
isn't he?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. That's a man, that fight. I can't wait for that one.
Yeah.
I wish that was in Columbus. Wow.
Yeah.
That is
Maybe they'll change it.
Okay, so let's get real here. All right. Everybody's talking about, when you're talking about the lightweight division, everybody's talking about Islam Makhachev. When's Islam gonna fulfill the prophecy and take his seat at the throne like his father Habib did before him? Sorry, I've been watching the Star Wars movies.
It's okay. Yeah.
I'm mixing up my talk there. But in a lot of ways, Dominic, the way I kind of view this division is like another series of movies I just rewatched, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where it feels like Islam Makhachev is like Loki in the first Avengers, where it's like the big baddie that makes all these guys in the top have to come together, have to try to fight him off. But really, the greater threat lies a little bit further behind Islam Makhachev, and that's Thanos, a.k.a. these 5 guys.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, there's 5 stones.
That's what I look. That's what I look at it as. Like, these guys are like everybody's so worried about Islam Makhachev and how he might be the next long-term champion. And that might be true, but I think the greater threat to guys like Poirier, Oliveira, these guys, I mean, Tony Ferguson, Michael Chandler, Justin Gaethje, is these 5 guys.
Yeah.
Because I look at all these guys and I'm like, I don't know who's going to beat them. I don't know who's going to beat them besides each other.
Exactly.
Zaya beat Rydell. That was something. Oh my gosh. I don't know, though. Like, who is going to be the one that makes the biggest jump? I guess I'm going to go with Fazayev. I feel like he's amazing. I feel like he's like the easy pick right now. He seems to be the one that's kind of maybe earned the most clout out of all 5. He's kind of so the win over Rydell did a lot for me, because after his fight with Bobby Green, and I want to give a lot of credit to Bobby Green's performance, but I kind of looked at Fazayev and I was like, maybe this guy is mortal after all.
Yeah.
And then he goes out and does what he did to Brad Rydell, and I'm like, well, maybe not. Maybe he's just unbeatable.
Yeah.
So I think Fazayev has the best chance to go all the way to top 5. My second pick would probably be Saryukin, if not for the fact that fight with Alvarez is, that's a 50-50 fight. That's a coin toss.
Do you think it's safe that out of these 5, Saryukin is the most underappreciated, underrated of the 5? Or do you think that's
Alvarez? I would say Alvarez is. I think Saryukin has you're right, he is underrated, but maybe it's he did fight Islam and gave Islam a tough fight.
Yeah.
He lost, but I think maybe I'm wrong. I thought maybe enough people were aware of that fight to where maybe he's got more credit, but you're probably right. Maybe he is. I would probably put him above Gamrot even. I think Gamrot's still, not a guy that a lot of people are talking about. I think Rydell and Fazayev has certainly earned their places, the wars they've had over the last year, but those 3 are probably needing more shine, needing to really put on like a statement win and a highlight reel performance. But I'll go with Fazayev. But I do think if I really had to change the question and go who has the most potential, I actually think Saryukin might, even though he's lost to Islam Makhachev, and that's kind of like maybe to some people that's enough to scare them off from picking him. But I think Arman Saryukin is.
He might stylistically still match up the best with Islam,
Yeah. But did you gave your pick, Joel Alvarez? So you're on to your lightweight question, correct?
Yeah, and it is about the current undisputed lightweight champion, Charles Oliveira. Noah, if Charles Oliveira successfully defends his title against Justin Gaethje, as we're thinking, at least that's going to be the next defense, and then the winner of Dariush and Makhachev, is his title reign not only potentially better than Habib, but the best we've ever seen at 155 pounds?
Yes.
Think about.
I said it and barely thought about it, so hopefully I was right.
He to get the belt,
You
Not
beat
only does he
Michael
go on an 8-fight win streak,
Yeah, okay.
but he beats Michael Chandler, a former 3-time Bellator champ.
Mhm.
Then he submits Dustin Poirier, one of the best fighters in UFC history to never have an undisputed belt. Then we're talking a potential title defense against Justin Gaethje, one of the most dangerous men in the UFC. And then what could be even more impressive, and really the icing on the cake of those three, if he beats either or of Dariush and Makhachev, specifically if it's Islam Makhachev, that's a hell of a title reign right there.
So I'm trying to think. Would I say Khabib right now has the best title reign in lightweight history? That's what I'm trying to.
Let's see. We've got Connor, Dustin, and Justin.
Yeah. So who would I put above him in terms of lightweight champions in their title reign? Probably wouldn't put Benson. I probably wouldn't put Frankie, but BJ Penn.
Maybe like a BJ is the only guy.
BJ Penn that's a. Let's see. BJ Penn with the light. It's hard for me to remember the lightweight title. He beat Sean Shirk for the title, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then he followed it up with the win over the one where oh god, what's that kid's name? Babyface kid. He choked him out, and his face was so bloody that like it was so nasty.
I might have to look up BJ now.
Yeah,
I should have had him on standby.
I'm gonna look it up so I can have his record in front of me. By the way, I believe he's running for like Senate or something
in Hawaii.
But I think it's a bit like Tito Ortiz running for
a
position in Huntington Beach. Anyways, that's not important here. Sean Shirk he won the vacant title over the name I'm talking about, Joe Stevenson.
Joe Daddy, yeah.
Real nasty fight that was. Then beat Sean Shirk via TKO to flying knee.
Up against the fence.
Oh my god! I mean the promo. Well, I don't want to call it a promo. The interview to set up for it. Sean Shirk, you're dead. I mean, great stuff.
Yeah.
Follows that up with a loss in his attempt to become double champ against GSP, but then submits Kenny Florian and defeats Diego Sanchez via TKO. And then loses the belt to Frankie Edgar.
So also 3 title defenses then.
Yes. I guess I would probably lean Khabib. The title defenses are much stronger in terms of the, don't get me wrong, for the time, those are good names, but they do not compare to the level that Khabib was fighting against. But, I mean, BJ Penn was kind of all there was at that time. So I'll put Khabib's. I think if Charles Oliveira pulls that off, and some of it might be more based on kind of how the performance is. Like, is he finishing these guys?
Yeah.
Is he, having very boring decisions, which I know we can't even imagine with like Gaethje.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes, that would be the best title reign in lightweight history. And
what's funny is now that I asked this question, but now I'm just now realizing 2 of the 3 would be the same as Khabib, being Dustin and Justin. So it comes down to Connor or Dariush and or Makhachev. So
you know what's weird though is that's not what it came down to for me. For me, it came down to how they won the belt.
Well, yeah, of course.
So Khabib with Ally Quina, it's just like I'm like, okay. If Charles can pull that off, I just think it's just stronger because you started out much stronger with Michael Chandler, and
it's funny they both won in vacant circumstances.
But I will say, I guess the reason why you would pick Khabib is 2 of those 3 were interim champions.
That's true.
But I don't give a shit about interim belts. So
yeah.
Welterweight.
I
believe our question is somewhat similar on this one too.
It is. Do I start?
Yes. I believe.
So I need to reword this and not read directly from my paper here. But will Kamaru Usman, current champion, 5 title defenses, one of the best of all time, and current #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, will he be the champion welcoming Khamzat Chimaev to his first title shot? Because yes, Khamzat is going to get to a title, people. It's going to happen. Or will that belt be in a position where Kamaru has either lost that title or has vacated and then retired. So essentially, basically, is Kamaru going to be the champ when Khamzat gets to a title shot or not?
I love the assumption that you made with Khamzat,
I
because
know.
my question does not go that. It does not make that assumption. That's what's so funny.
Because
Oh,
I'm just going to be
wow.
honest with you. I personally don't see these two fighting one another. I don't.
I think you're right. I don't know. I don't know if Kamaru. I don't know how much time we have left with Kamaru,
Yeah.
but it doesn't feel like we have a lot.
Yeah.
He's already said he wants to take more time. So what does that mean? When are we going to see him next? Is it going to be April or is it going to be like August?
Yeah. Like, are we talking one fight in 2022?
I mean, Leon Edwards is just going to be crying in the corner somewhere. He's going to be throwing a fit.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, here's what I think is going to happen. I think Kamaru is going to retire.
Yeah.
And I think the UFC is going to go, all right, we got to find a new champion. Leon, you're getting a title shot, but you got to fight Khamzat to do it.
The fight that never could happen, huh?
So then Leon will finally get his title shot, and it'll be against Khamzat Chimaev.
The smashing machine.
Okay, that's partly a joke. But actually, I'm gonna say I think Kamaru will not fight Khamzat.
Yeah.
I think Kamaru will be gone by that point.
I agree. I for whatever reason, I just can't see those two squaring off with one another.
And I mean, I guess my question, because really we can just kind of put these together. I mean, mine was more so like, will Khamzat, how high will he get? How high will he get? Where will he be in terms of rankings by the end of the year? I guess is the, will he by the end of the year, is he already fighting for a title, or is it going to be a little bit slower than that? Because right now, I'm a little surprised we haven't got a fight announcement with him, because it seems like Neil Magny's like,
I know.
please put me in.
Yeah.
Dana has acknowledged as such that Neil Magny will take that fight. And almost in a backhanded way was like, but we don't want that fight.
Yeah. I think this time next year, Khamzat Chimaev is the welterweight champion.
Oh, wow. Wow. Hell yeah.
Just rip the Band-Aid off, man.
That felt good. That made me feel something right there.
Yeah. This guy is one of the most special talents I think we've ever seen in the UFC. Oh, even though he's only 4-0, but this guy doesn't get touched when he fights. He's literally actually technically been touched twice in 4 fights. So
that's funny.
I don't know who he's getting matched up next with, but I think he competes with every one of these guys in the top 5. Stylistically, I think he can compete with them. There are tougher fights, but man, this guy's skill set is something to behold. I think in January of 23, he is either the champion or he's booked to fight for the belt.
Do you think Usman defends again? Do you think he'll defend the title again?
I think he'll have one more title defense.
You think it's Leon Edwards, and is that it?
See, I would like to say yeah, but Dana has kind of said that they're working on something for Leon, but it's not Usman. So, like, I don't know. I'd love for my boy Vicente Luque to get in there. That'd be a great fight in itself. Luque versus Kamaru. But I think Usman, we do see defend the title at least one time in 2022.
Yeah, I agree. I just think that he is so smart, Kamaru Usman.
Yeah.
To the point where he's gonna look and he's gonna go, my knees hurt. And that guy looks quite scary.
That guy looks healthy. I'm good.
So for middleweight, mine's gonna be about the champion. It's kind of a similar question. Somewhat similar to what you proposed at welterweight. And it's about Israel Adesanya, who is scheduled as of now for, I believe, or kind of scheduled, I don't know. It's,
February 12th.
February for him to run it back with Robert Whittaker. Now, I guess depending on how that title fight goes might change your answer to this question, but let's say for the sake, or for what I'm going to say that Israel Adesanya wins that fight. Okay. He wins it. Robert puts up a good fight, but Israel wins the fight. How much longer will Adesanya remain in the middleweight division? Because
remain in the division.
Yeah, because 2021 was interesting. He had that attempt to go up and win a second belt against Jan Blachowicz at lightweight. And that was supposed to potentially spur into a hugely financially beneficial fight against John Jones, perhaps.
Yeah.
And instead, he kind of got beat pretty good.
Yeah, that's true.
And it was almost like, and then afterwards he came back, fought Marvin Vettori at middleweight. It almost felt like when the guy cheats on his girlfriend and gets caught, and everybody is aware of it, but then you see him like back with his girlfriend, you're like, oh. So that's what it feels like. Adesanya is just kind of awkwardly still the middleweight champion when he was totally trying to leave the division.
Yeah.
So now you got the fight with Robert Whittaker, which is a big fight and not a gimme at all.
Yeah.
But if he were to win, I mean, what matchups are ahead? A lot of rematches. Darren Till is a fight he wanted, who is well away from a title shot now.
Yes.
Jared Cannonier is another guy he's been interested in fighting, who he has, if he beats Derek Brunson.
Which is a tough task now.
Which could potentially earn him a title shot. But if Derek Brunson wins, do you want to fight Brunson again?
Yeah.
So that's my question this year is Israel Adesanya going to make another attempt to leave the division, or is he going to really stay put here all year?
I think we'll see him here all year. I think we see this fight with Robert. By the way, I had this epiphany in my head the other day. I don't know if I was sitting at work or I was just sitting thinking about fights because, golly, we just love it, don't we?
Yeah.
And it randomly, for what I don't remember if something triggered it or what, but in my head, Izzy versus Robert Whittaker 2 in February is going to be a fight of the year contender at the Joey's in 2022. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a 5-round. I'm talking Whittaker, Yoel.
You talking
Izzy Gastelum.
Yeah,
I think
Izzy Gastelum.
Yes, I think it's going to be such an amazing fight. So I digress. We'll find out in February if that's true. But for Izzy, I think if he wins, he will defend again. Especially if Cannonier beats Brunson on that night. It's the co-main event of that fight card right now, I think.
Yeah.
So if Cannonier wins, I think he definitely will defend against Cannonier. If Brunson wins, he's earned it. What's he won? 5 in a row? That would be 6 if he beats Cannonier. I'd say Izzy would welcome Brunson back, especially now that it's a title shot.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a title shot the first time they fought. So I'd see him I think he fights 2 times this year, maybe 3, but for sure 2 times. And I think he does stay at middleweight for 2022.
Yeah, the third one, man. I mean, you're looking at someone like Sean Strickland if he can get past Jack Hermanson.
I know, right? And what a funky fight that would be. Could you imagine the trash talk in that, by the way?
Sean Strickland being in a title challenger is wild.
That is crazy to think. And, go
sorry,
ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you're good.
So what I'm going to say is, sorry, for Adesanya, I guess when I put this question together, it was just like, how much longer will he remain in the division? And I do think you're probably right. I don't think we see him make the move this year. But I do wonder, like, how many times is he really going to fight at middleweight? Because I do think he has an interest in going back to light heavyweight. I do. I don't think he's committed, man. Because you just said, okay, you have a couple good fights right there. Whittaker coming up. If you win that, even though it's a rematch with Brunson, one that's earned, or you fight Cannonier, which is a fight you've wanted.
Yeah.
After that, though, Dominic, and I know a lot can get shaken up. Like I said, Sean Strickland could insert himself, but look at the rest of the top of the division. You got Marvin Vettori, who he's beat twice.
Yep.
Paulo Costa, who's
might not even fight at middleweight.
Who he might fight at light heavyweight.
Yeah.
Jack Hermanson, who's a ways away. Darren Till, who's a ways away. As much as I'd love to see, Adesanya fight someone like who were we just talking about that he fought previously, 5-round war. Why am I forgetting his name?
Who? Gastelum?
Israel. Yes, Kelvin Gastelum, far away from a title fight. Like these, there's fights that I would love to see. Him and Darren Till, I'd love to see, but too far away right now.
Yeah.
So I just don't know if Adesanya is going to have the interest in doing a lot of these rematches that he may kind of be forced to do if he keeps staying around.
Yeah, that's a good point. And honestly, I'm just going to piggyback immediately with my question because it does sort of relate to someone you mentioned, Noah. That's Mr. Liverpool England himself, Darren Till. And the question is simply, will he work his way back 2 title contention. Well, I guess he's never technically in title contention at middleweight, but he's been like kind of close to it with the fights with Robert Whittaker. But I digress. Will he get into title contention following his string of unlucky injuries and a 2-fight skid? For what it's worth, there's like this rumor floating around out there that he may or may not be fighting Uriah Hall in London in March, but I don't even know if that fight card's going to take place in London right now, so keep that on your radar. But regardless, will we see Darren Till back at the peak Darren Till we've seen before, or is it just kind of the injuries, the layoffs, the 2-fight losing streak? What do you think?
Didn't he tear his ACL in his last fight? You tell me this man's going to fight in London in March?
That according to some Overtime Heroics people, that's what I've seen. I have seen that from other sources.
I'm
but
not going to shoot the messenger.
It's very,
I mean,
it's very
fought,
like light.
He fought. We don't even know if he really tore his ACL, but he did fight on perhaps a torn ACL. So who knows?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Now, I don't. That's not to say that I don't think he can have a bounce back year. I do. If anything, I think his 2022 could shape up. I think the best case scenario is he will be in the same spot Anthony Smith is in at light heavyweight. He will be surrounded by a couple people who've gotten big wins over him, Derek Brunson, Robert Whittaker. But he will have, if he were to have maybe 2 wins this year, he will have reinserted himself into the top of the division.
Yeah.
He'll still be behind those guys that he lost to. Again, Brunson, Whittaker. But he'll be right there in the driver's seat to perhaps earn a rematch with one of those two, or maybe he could even, if they both lose their title opportunities, he could perhaps be right there where Adesanya's like,
well, that's who he wants to fight.
Let's do it. So
yeah.
I'm not saying that it can't happen in terms of like an actual title fight or the title challenger, but I don't quite see that. But I think Anthony Smith, if you look at where Anthony Smith lays right now in the light heavyweight division, that is the best case scenario for Darren Till at the end of 2022.
I like that, Noah. That's a clever observation, kid. Right now, I'm still very hesitant. I'm gonna side with no. As of now, I don't know if we ever see. And I know it was at welterweight when he challenged for the title and surged so quickly. But in the middleweight division, he does match up good with some of these guys. But at the same time, I just don't know if that power he had at welterweight does, and therefore the matchups are very much more closely contested. So for now, I'm going to say no.
All right, moving on to light heavyweight. It's on
to
you,
remain.
Dom.
Oh, it is on me. And this is kind of like Noah's question for flyweight, kind of, sort of. Anyways, it's about the division as a whole, no one in specific, but it is about, I guess, the champion who is currently Glover Teixeira, but more importantly, future champions. Because Noah, is it possible that the current state of the division could see multiple champions rather than a long-standing one, right? So we're coming off Jan Blachowicz, obviously wins the belt. Why am I blanking on? He beat Dominic Reyes for the vacant belt. So he defends once against Israel Adesanya, who comes up from middleweight, but never had a title defense against the light heavyweight. He loses his second defense to Glover Teixeira, one of the best title wins in UFC history, by the way. But then we see Glover, he's 42, 43 years old. He's going to more than likely fight Yuri Prochazka next. That's a very tough fight for Glover, but the veteran could always pull it off. But I'm saying if Yuri wins that one, then we've got 2 back-to-back champions with 1 combined title defense, and it was to a middleweight. But then Yuri is so wild and reckless, I could see him losing in his first title defense against someone if he gets into a striking battle. So do you think we're in a period right now, specifically 2022, where we might see 2 or 3 title shots in this division at 205 pounds, that it may just bounce back and forth from people?
I want to say yes, but that never happens.
It would go back to the time of Rashad Evans, Lyoto Machida, Shogun type era is what made me think of this question.
Yeah, no, that's true. That is what it would be like. I'll say yes. I think if there's a division that's equipped to do it, this is it. Yeah. But I think it's basically you're going to see guys maybe playing hot potato until Magomed Ankalaev comes. I think Ankalaev is the best suited for a long run.
Yeah.
And I don't even know. He may not. Maybe he doesn't get past like Yuri Prochazka or Glover Teixeira or whoever, but he just seems to have the most well-rounded skill set and the smartest fight IQ to where I think that he is a level above really everybody else right now. You know, everybody else in this top of the heap, they all have like at least one huge flaw.
Yeah.
You know, and Ankalaev just doesn't really have that. So I think there's a chance for guys, you know, I like Yuri over Teixeira, but then if Yuri has to fight someone like Rakic or Anthony Smith or whoever, Yuri is such a wild man. I don't know if he could ever be a long-standing champion.
I know, right?
But yeah, did you have a person in mind, or was there a thought you had about? Do you feel like it's gonna hot potato around for a little bit?
I do. That's what made me think of this question. And, you know, I even said, like, Ankalaev, I think, is deserving of a title potentially next. Obviously, that probably won't happen. But even if he were to become the champion, yes, he has the skill set, I think, out of all these guys to hold it for a while. But and I know it's not been of recent, but he has shown in the past kind of a reckless side if you really force it upon him. And for that reason alone, I could see him losing the belt, you know, after maybe one title defense. So we could be in for another state like we were in, what was that, like 08, 09? Yeah. So it's an interesting division.
Yeah, even like you had Jamal Hill on the way up, and he's a guy, or Paul Craig is another one that's really interesting. Paul Craig has a win over Ankalaev.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, I don't know. My question was involving Yuri Prohaska specifically, and I guess we can just incorporate it here. You know, do you think, Dominic, that Yuri can reach do you think he can win the title? And my question was, how long can he stay there?
He could definitely win the title. I think that's a great matchup with Glover. But Glover can hey man.
You can't count out
old
Glover
man,
anymore, man.
He finds a way to get it done. That's for damn sure. But I do think Yuri can become the champ. But it kind of goes against everything I just said. I think he can be a 2, 3, 4 title defense guy because he is that talented. It's the matter of he's just going to go out there and get into a damn brawl with anyone. It doesn't matter who it is. He's not going to be technical. He's going to just go out there and throw some spinning elbows and kicks. And I mean, he admitted he got knocked out in the Dominic Reyes fight. Luckily, he just fell on top of the guy and was in top position so he could wake up in time. So he can be a long-standing champion with his skill set, but I don't know if he necessarily will be, or at least in his potential first title reign, because he may just fight for the belt again in the future. Yeah, he's still so young. We can't forget how young this kid is. Yeah. Even though he's got like, I don't know, how many fights does he have? Like 30-something fights. He's only in his 20s still. So
yeah, I love Yuri, man. I could definitely see that though. A guy's just always going to hang around the top.
Yeah.
Heavyweight, the last one
here.
All right, I'll take it first.
All righty.
It's the question that's probably on a lot of people's mind. No surprises, no curveballs here, Dominic. And a lot of this will probably be answered with our first pay-per-view of 2022.
Whew.
But what does Francis Ngannou's future hold in the UFC? Now, the state of things, not good.
No.
It seems like they're good. Ngannou's champion.
Yeah.
He's the star in the making. The UFC loves those. But things seem to go south June.
Yeah.
June is when things went bad. We'll just say. I don't know. June. Fuck it. That's when it happened.
Summertime.
The UFC, probably because they might have been aware that Amanda Nunes was not going to be able to defend at 265 against Juliana Pena, we're looking to put another title fight on that card. So they said, hey, Ngannou, we want you to defend against Derek Lewis in a rematch on that card. Ngannou said, I won't be ready until September, UFC 266, but I'll gladly do it then. The UFC was like, well, fuck you. We're putting an interim title on the line in August. It's going to be Ciryl Gane and Derek Lewis. And I hate that Ciryl Gane's kind of been
I know. We love this guy.
He's kind of been put in that box of like, oh, he's the UFC's like boy. Like they're using him to kind of get the Francis a little bit or whatever. But anyway, Ciryl Gane wins. Things with the UFC don't seem great. Francis's management and the UFC are like not on speaking terms. It's all bad. But he's the heavyweight champion of the world.
Yeah.
And the way these UFC contracts go is if Ngannou continues to win as champion, each win just extends his contract one more fight. Basically, if you're a champion in the UFC, you will always be under contract in the UFC.
Yeah.
Which I can't deny is not a smart move, even if you don't think it's ethical. It's a smart move.
Yeah.
But if he loses, he is free.
Wow, Francis Ngannou, a free agent. That's
so, Dominic, what's the end game for Francis Ngannou here? Let's say he loses to Ciryl Gane in January. Are we going to see him fighting outside of the UFC, or will they say, fuck it, what's best for business is for me to stay here and he come back?
Francis Ngannou, 2022 PFL heavyweight champion. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't think that's crazy.
He ain't going nowhere. I being that this man is such a star, I cannot see him being in another organization other than the UFC, even if he loses in less than 3 weeks' time now to Ciryl Gane. I think, for what it's worth, Dana said they had a nice dinner. They bumped into each other at dinner recently, and they had a talk. But you know how that goes. I love how those two guys they bumped into each other.
The way Dana describes running into people or talking to people, I don't know why it makes me laugh.
I think Francis in the UFC will come to terms. I think it's not even so much Francis. It seems like Dana is trying to advise Francis to stay clear of like his management and like the team he has around him. So,
which is a weird dilemma, because if a manager is not well liked by the promotion, doesn't that mean he's doing something right for the fighter? That's what the common way of thinking is. It's like, okay, that usually means he's getting a better deal for his fighter than what the UFC wants to give out.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's the case here, because we've had a lot of managers who seem to get along with the UFC, and I doubt that they all, just, I don't know. I know Ali is the one that kind of gets thrown out there, and I don't know what kind of deal's going on there. It's definitely interesting, but you're right. It seems to be the manager, but it doesn't seem like Ngannou has any interest in leaving his management team, and I don't think he necessarily should.
Yeah.
I want to agree with you, and maybe I will after they had that nice dinner. I didn't know that. I didn't know that they had bumped into each other. I know Francis' management said that the UFC have not contacted them since
June, like you said. Yeah.
I'm just going to throw it out there. Francis Ngannou, co-main event on a Jake Paul boxing card in 2022. They're going to put that man. How much does Antonio Brown weigh?
Shut the fuck up.
How much does Antonio Brown weigh?
Not what Francis weighs.
But is he above 205 pounds?
I don't know.
Antonio Brown versus Francis Ngannou, co-main event. Hey, I'd watch the hell out of that.
So my question is a bit of a bring back.
No, you motherfucker. How dare you? How dare you try to sidestep my question?
What? That wasn't a question. That was a statement.
Yeah, you avoided it.
No. Why?
No.
No.
Are you upset at Antonio Brown for throwing his stuff into the
Nah,
stands?
I ain't a Buccaneers fan. I didn't have him on my fantasy team. Unfortunately, I was already out of the playoffs. But
Okay. Anyways, what
anyways,
about a second option here? What if he goes over to Japan? Not Japan. Sorry, I believe Taiwan, One FC, and he sort of becomes their version of what Bob Sapp was for Pride back in the early 2000s.
are you okay?
They just match him up with like flyweights.
Are you okay?
Main event, One FC 2022, Demetrius Johnson versus Francis Ngannou.
You know when Nick Diaz and Robbie had that meeting after the fight, and Robbie says, "Are you okay?" And Nick's like, "Yeah, I'm good." And Robbie goes, "No, like, are you okay in life?
In life, yeah.
Are you good?"
All right, go ahead with your question.
I don't even know how to follow up. Mine is going to be such a. I feel like I've had this before when we do an episode like this, but fuck it. I'm a big Tom Aspinall fan, right? Yeah, I told you guys this is no.
Maybe I should have. Maybe I should have went.
Yeah, 100%. You should have went last.
This is a fart in church moment right here.
But Tom Aspinall, I love this guy. 11-2, number 10 right now in the heavyweight division, or Aspinall, as I like to say. Let me confirm. He is 4-0 in the UFC. He's won 4 in a row, obviously. And my question is this: he has a fight booked with is it Shamil, right?
Yeah,
Shamil Abdurrahimov.
Yep.
I think it's in March. I wish that was in Columbus. Anyways, so at the rate in which Aspinall is going, he's made it very clear that he's in no hurry to make it to the title. He recognizes where he is and where he wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
But at the rate at which he's going, if he beats Shamil, who's the number 8 guy, then fights 1 or 2 more times, you got to think that if he can win those by the end of the year, is Tom Aspinall a title contender or a potential number 1 contender heading into 2023 after this slow burn of a rise that he's had?
Will he be okay? Sorry.
Will he be a title contender
at the end of the year?
Yeah.
Basically, he'd have to win 2 fights this year, beat Abdurrahimov, and he'd probably fight, someone like Volkov or someone like that.
Potentially Curtis Blades. That's a tough fight.
I'll say yes. I think he's good. My real answer, sorry. I'm going to give you a real answer and a fake answer. My real answer is...
Do I get to guess?
You're not going to get the fake answer.
Okay.
If you do, then wow. Aspinall will be in the title discussion by the end of the year. It's a tough discussion to be in. It's a tough division to really, earn that spot because, man, who knows what could happen this year. For all we know, he's going to have to come across someone like Derek Lewis to really, off the Abdurrahimov fight, he's going to be potentially ranked 8th or something like that.
Yeah, he's going to be right there.
Who knows who they'd match him up with? There's some tough fights up there. You saw what Derek Lewis just did to Chris Dawkins, and I have no doubt guys like Curtis Blades and Volkov and Rosenstruik could do similar things if given the shot. But I feel a little more confident in Aspinall than I did Dawkins, and I think that will hold true this year.
Yeah. Wait, did you not?
Oh, the fake answer.
Yeah.
The fake answer. So Aspinall said he wants to come, slowly. He wants to come up slowly, which will, that's great. I think if you beat Abdurrahimov, let's say you just go 1 in front. You're like, you know what? I'm going to beat all these guys on my way up.
Yeah.
Well, that'll give just enough time for Andrei Arlovsky, who is on his comeback tour right now, to skyrocket up to the top, and then they rematch in a number 1 contender fight. Andrei Arlovsky turns back the clock, hits him with a straight right, just like he used to do back in the day with the hair and the fangs. Out goes
chest
Aspinall.
hair. Yeah.
Andrei Arlovsky, champion 2023.
Yeah, I really lost you on the tail end of this episode, huh?
Yeah, I think I'm just hungry.
But to wrap it up, then you guys know if you've listened to the podcast, and if you're new, I'm big on Tom Aspinall, and I think he is a title contender by the end of the year. I feel bad genuinely for our audience. I'm sorry I had to bring that back so much there. Noah really stole the show with the heavyweights.
No,
But
it's a good question. I do like Aspinall. But yes, I get it. I'm just dude. I'm just I'm
you're
kind of a rock
creative.
star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there it is.
That's gonna wrap it up for this interesting edition.
I
This
say
is
we
one
do
of
this
our
every year.
instead of having a special episode, this is a interesting episode.
It is.
So thank you for joining us for this our first episode of 2022.
Yeah.
Thank you for sticking with us as we came through the new year. We will be back.
Next
Dominic?
Wednesday. Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday for the Reddit Roundtable, the first of the year.
Ooh.
Looking forward to that one. Got some questions of brewing. Cooking them up.
And
baby.
we want questions from you all too.
Yep. And we will tell you how to do so momentarily. But guys, I feel like 2022, there's a lot on the horizon that could potentially be coming up. Barstool Sports put out an application today for looking for talent for this year. And did we apply? You bet your fucking ass we did. So Barstool Sports, if you're watching,
yes,
just know that these are your guys. We are the guys to bring MMA to the next level at Barstool.
Yes.
Give us a call. My people will be in touch. But
we do have quite an incredible team.
Dominic, tell the good people where they can find you on social media.
You can find me on Twitter, on Instagram, at @dslee14. More importantly, go follow, go engage, go interact with the podcast on Twitter, on Instagram, at @BAJ_MMA podcast. Feel free, tweet at Barstool Sports. Let them know the Joeys are the real deal.
As for me, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, at @ntbaker_. If you go to my bio, there is a link that'll take you to a link tree, which will present you a list of links to all the platforms the podcast is on, along with social media platforms. So that includes.
It's not limited to. No, it's not. It is.
It kind of is.
A little bit.
The Twitter, the Instagram, the YouTube channel, and Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. It's all on there, baby. And there's a couple of links for today's sponsor, Anchor. Shout out to Anchor.
Shout out.
First, leaving a voice message. This is how you can become a part of the show, a part of the Reddit Roundtable next Wednesday. If you have a question burning inside, perhaps a question that you would like to see answered in 2022, you can leave us up to 60-second voice message, and we will play it on the show, and we will answer your question on the show. If you want to remain anonymous, you can remain anonymous. Harry Balzania was on here one time. That's not even his real name.
Well, anyways,
there's also a link on there if you want to become a supporter of the podcast that just provides us with a few dollars a month. All that money goes back into improving the quality of the podcast. But for the first time in 2022, Dominic, that's it. We're out. And we'll see y'all on Wednesday.